Our interviews are primarily scenario-based questions. Are you familiar with those? It's okay if you aren't, nothing to stress about.
So tell me about a time you disagreed with your manager at work. What happened?
Recently, I disagreed with my boss regarding a solution that he had for a key client of mine. Rather than question his thinking in front of everyone, I shared my perspective in private.
That's so important. You'd be surprised how many people give feedback in public.
Totally. I would never put my manager on the spot like that. Anyways, when we spoke, I was sure to back up my opinion with concrete examples. I also made it clear that I respected his idea and I just wanted him to have all the information.
I'm sure your boss appreciated that.
First of all, Adrian said he gave the feedback in private, which demonstrates emotional intelligence. He showed that he was professional and respectful of his boss's thinking. It was super smart of Adrian to reference the examples he gave his boss at the time that backed his thinking. Whenever possible, you want to show your interviewer that you know how to back up your strategies with data or concrete examples. Well done.
Let's say you're an executive assistant supporting multiple VPs at your company. 2 of them are both named Jimena, and they're both traveling to Europe for work in the same exact month. You accidentally mix up their names on a reservation. Your response may sound something a little bit like this. It was my first time handling travel for 2 VPs with the same first name. After carefully making all of their reservations, I began to double check for accuracy. I realized I had switched the names for one of their train reservations. Because of the strict checks and balances system that I already have in place, I caught this error with enough time to contact the train station, cancel, rebook the reservation under the correct name, and leave the VPs completely unaffected. Since then, I've completed numerous travel arrangements for both of them, and I never made the same mistake again.
So that's all I have. I've asked you all the questions. I really want to thank you for taking out the time to come in and see us today. You're very well versed. And before we wrap, do you have any questions for me?
This is an essential moment. The hiring manager wants to see if you're a critical thinker and if you're curious about the organization. Here are some good questions to ask.
What's your favorite thing about working here?
What are some of the qualities that would make an entry-level candidate most successful in this role?
What advice would you give your younger self starting out in this industry?
I would love to start with you sharing a bit about your story.
Well, I have always loved product design, ever since I got my first computer as a kid. Throughout my career, I've really honed in on that passion. I was on the product design team for a health and wellness app at a startup, and I'm currently the project lead on a number of products for a larger tech company. I love receiving user feedback, working on those problems, and coming up with solutions. What really excites me about this position is that I'd have the opportunity to do that directly with clients.
That's very impressive.
Anytime you're asked a question like this, your response should be tailored specifically to how it's relevant to the role and the company. Sharing a personal anecdote is okay, but remember that it should only support your professional narrative for the job.
Initially, an employer may be looking for red flags. Are you able to acknowledge your flaws? Have you had multiple issues with teammates in the past? Are you one of those people that resist constructive criticism? These factors are important to recognize so you can choose a response that removes any potential concerns, but honestly acknowledges a true weakness that you see in yourself. How can you prepare? Avoid the instinct to use a false weakness. You don't want to say, I'm a perfectionist, I'm an overachiever, or I'm a workaholic. These are all obvious strengths that any employer would be so happy to see in their employees. Instead, choose a weakness that isn't detrimental to the job you're interviewing for. Try to identify a weakness that, 1, is a true area of improvement you see in yourself, 2, you're working to improve, 3, isn't vital to the role, and 4, isn't associated with your personality. So, for example, maybe your organization skills are good enough to get the job done, but you find yourself feeling slightly more stressed during the final days before a deadline. Maybe you're looking to make that process smoother for yourself, so you've been researching better practices. Remember, we want to showcase self-awareness and growth mindset. How should you respond? Lead with a positive frame. Instead of saying, I'm really bad at blah, 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 you can say, An area of improvement I see in myself is blank. Let's use this scenario for example. One area of improvement I see in myself is my tendency to procrastinate. While I've never missed a deadline and my work continuously meets or exceeds expectations, I do tend to focus on projects more as they approach their deadlines. This can leave me feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and rushed during the final days of the assignment. So, in order to improve my efficiency, I began reading books on organization and time management, which has honestly really helped me implement several new practices. Now, I create timelines for projects, I schedule milestones for completion, and I've already begun to see a major improvement. I really look forward to learning more on how to strengthen myself in this area.
If you want more tips and tricks for your interview, subscribe to the Indeed YouTube channel.